I'm pinning up my fabric with pins and I'm going to make it as tight as a drum. It's not my favourite process, but this particular frame has quite soft wood, so it's not that difficult. And it has to be done or I can't start creating my batik. There we go, I'm getting there. A few more pins and I'm done. My next stage is to draw very, very freely a pattern on top of my fabric. I'm not really thinking, I'm just playing, and I have to say every single one of you can do this. Whether you do this as a batik, or you do this as a pen and ink drawing, or a felt pen drawing, or a watercolour design, or an acrylic painting, you can all do this. We can all create abstract patterns with shapes, and we create a composition that develops as we go. I've been a teacher for many years and I have never found anyone who can't do this. But I've found many students who've said to me, I'm not creative, I can't draw. Rubbish. You can create. You choose the clothes you wear, you choose how your bedrooms look, you choose how your houses look. You can create without a shadow of a doubt. And that's what you're watching me do now. Get into flow and just make marks. Lots and lots of marks that later on I will turn into a batik. My job now in order to create a batik is to wax everywhere I wish to keep white. For this I'm using hot wax and I'm using a junting, which you can see me using now, and later for the bigger areas I'll also be using a brush. I love applying wax to fabric. I think it's probably one of my most favourite things. Partly because I have to really concentrate, and also because it's just extremely soothing as the wax falls out of the nib of the junting. I'm going to fill in the middle areas of these lines with a brush. Sometimes using a brush can be a bit quicker, so I can alternate between both tools. There we go. So now what I do is I put my lightest shade of pink all over my fabric and I use a big fat sponge, and you can see all the areas that I've waxed peek through. Now I take off excess dye with a paper towel. There we go. And once this is dry, I start waxing again. There we go. Back into the process of covering everywhere I wish to keep light pink. My task now is to put lemon dye on top of my fabric. The lemon mixes with the pale pink and creates a light orange, and my waxed areas peek through. I take off excess dye again. There we go. Now the fabric is dry, I start waxing everywhere I wish to keep this very pale orange. Initially I'm using a junting, but later, as you know, I will probably flip over to a brush. I finish waxing the light orange, I put on a stronger shade of dye. It's a pink and it turns the orange to, I would say, a light red. And here you go, again, you got it, the image is peeking through. I take off excess dye, and when the dye is dry, yep, I wax again the pattern I wish to keep this particular shade. Now I put on a stronger pink, which actually makes the colour underneath a stronger red. The dye will not get absorbed by the wax. Excess dye is as usual taken off, and when the dye has dried, I wax again. I'm getting there now. You can see the image is beginning to build in wax. And now my penultimate dye is put onto the fabric, which is a very strong maroon, and the images are peeking through. They're saying, "Hello, we're here. Do you like us? Do we look nice?" Excess dye, as you know, is now taken off. There we go. And when this colour is dry, I wax the bottom half of my batik. I'm using a big brush for this. My final shade, a strong black, is put onto the top left-hand corner. Excess dye is taken off, and now I start the ironing out of the wax. I put newspaper underneath the batik and on top of the batik, and the wax absorbs into the paper. It's a bit of a process. It doesn't just happen in one go. You have to keep changing the paper again and again and again, and keep ironing. You got it, again and again and again. But over time, all the wax comes out of the batik, and the image that is left is crisp and bright. Now that the paper is clean, no more wax is coming through, I can reveal the batik. I hope you like it. Please subscribe if you do. Thank you.